the hell? Hello. So I think we're live. Having a bit of trouble here. That's what we want to do. Keith, could you have a look and see if this is broadcasting? No, Google, as well, Google. Okay, so we are hopefully live with our second Skoogmusic sampling webinar. I'm hoping you can hear me. Well, it looks like we've got one person viewing. I can't see who that is, but hello to you. So this is a webinar all focused on just the sampling feature of the Skoogmusic software. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from this view to a view where you can see my desktop, so that you can see what's happening in the software. We'll also have a feed on the desktop of the video, so you can still see what's happening on my Skoog there. So if I click share my desktop and then click, here we go, share desktop. There we are. Start screen share. So now I'm hoping you can all see my screen. I've got my main desktop there. I've got Finder window, so I can find some bits and pieces, and hopefully you can see the video, so you can see what I'm doing on my Skoog. So first off, sampling. So sampling allows you to record sounds into Skoog and also to use pre-recorded sounds and essentially put anything you want audio-wise onto Skoog and then play it in a variety of different ways. And that opens the Skoog up to be used in not just musical contexts, but a whole range of different cross-curricular activities as well, which we will be looking at briefly. So what I want to do first is just go through some of the basics in reference to getting sampling working. for you on your setup, and then we will have a look at some applications and examples, and we'll finish off with talking about a particular case study which you can actually download from our website from the case study section in relation to using those sounds specifically to reach hard to reach young people, or young people who are quite difficult to engage. Using a concept of sounds of special interest. So here's my Skoog software. I was just playing a bit of Albert there, 2-1 brass. But here's the Skoog window, and if I look at the tabs on the side here, then this one with the microphone here, that's the sampling window. So if I click that, I get this window up, which gives me a different color-coded kind of lozenge or buffer into which I can load sounds and record sounds, edit them, and do different things with them in order to play them on the Skoog. Now, first off, very important, there are two ways of putting sounds into the sampler. One is to simply drag the sounds in. Actually, I tell a lie, there are 3 ways. So let's have a look at those first, different ways of getting sounds onto the Skoog. So I've downloaded some samples from our website. Now, actually, if we just quickly bounce to the website just now, we'll just drop that window there. Not too much going on. Let's make, let's go here where we go with her and bring that across. So hopefully that's not too busy. And if I just type in Skoogmusic to my Safari browser, I just want to show you where you can get some pre-recorded samples from our website. So now if I scroll to the bottom of the Skoog page, and actually this is accessible from the footer of any of the pages, you'll see in the resources section there's a variety of different links, and one is sample packs. You click that link and you will be able to download free of charge for Skoog users a range of different packs of samples. Got some nature sounds, female singer, we've got a starter pack with over 250 samples, British birds. Actually, I might download the British bird sample pack, although actually it would probably decrease my bandwidth. But there you see, there's lots and lots of stuff you can download there. I've already downloaded a couple, so we'll work with those. But I just wanted to show you where they are. There's all kinds of resources available on the Skoog site. And again, on the right here at the bottom, you see more resources, top tunes, lesson plans, backing tracks, extras, all kinds of stuff. We can come back to talk about that later. Now, I just want to check on my Google Hang window. Have we got any? Oh, we've got 3 viewers now. Do feel free to post up any questions. I'm having trouble seeing anyone. I'm not sure why that is, but hopefully you can see me. If anyone has any issues and they can't see, they could email through to support@Skoogmusic, and they should then be able to send in a question, and Keith or someone could pop down with that for me. Let me know what's going on. So let's start off with putting our own sounds on the Skoog here. So I have a window here with some samples in which I've downloaded. Go to sample sets. Here we go. These are all available from the website. And if I let's go first to single samples. There we go. Animals. Here we are. So I have all these different sounds here. Now, if I was to take the monkey and drag that sound to the let's do it to one you can see. Let's do it to yellow. And you say just drag it to the window, and there it is. And then as soon as I drag it in there, a variety of things happen. I can play it. Hopefully you can hear that little monkey there. Once I load that in, you can see that this button here, which activates the sample to play back, is now turned on. And you can see if I hover, it says turn sampling on and off. There's a variety of controls in there, but let's just get a few different sounds on, and then we can have a look at the controls. Let's put a goat on the red, a dog on the blue, so a seal on the green, and I'll just leave the orange for now. So a monkey, we have got a seal, and we've got a dog goat combination there. So that's just dragging sounds on, nice and easy. Just drag them to the side that you want them on. And the other controls are available here. So we've got sampling on and off. So if I turn this off, click the button. Oh, I have a spinning wheel. Let's hope that's not indicative of having to restart. No, it's not. For some reason that's not letting me turn on or off the sampling. Well, what this should do is turn it off. So we'll not dwell on that just now. Oh, there we go. See, turned off, so there's too many things running on the machine. So now it's gone back to the instrument setting that I had. So if I go into the instrument, see I'm on guitar, I go here, I want to engage the sampling now. I click that, when it's depressed, when it looks like it's pressed in, now we should have the sampling on. So we also have these different sampling modes that we have trigger, press and hold, and we have squeezing. And we'll come back to those in a minute, but you just click the icon here and you can see the indicator moves along, and I can choose different modes of interacting with those samples using my Skoog. This is a follow keyboard button, which means that if I engage that, then whatever notes I have loaded into the note section will be mapped to pitching the samples in different ways, and we'll talk about that a bit later as well. Let's turn that off. For each individual sample buffer or window, you've got a zoom and zoom out. You've got an edit, so I could actually select a portion of it. I could zoom into that portion, and I could choose to cut that portion to use it, or I can reverse it. I can pitch it up, I can pitch it down. Same for each of these. Here we have a reset buffers, clear all samples, and the reset sample buffer, save samples, load samples, and then these are record buttons to record directly, but again we'll come back to them in a minute. So that's simply just dragging pre-recorded sounds on to my Skoog. Just drag them to the side in which you want to play them on, and there you have it. Now once you have that set up how you want it, you can actually then save them as a sample set. So you click save this sample set using the disk icon at the bottom. Let's give it a sensible name. Let's call it Animal Collection. And actually, we should tomorrow be releasing a Carnival of the Animals pack to download. It's a really good resource that will have all sorts of stuff in it that Maggie's working on at the moment. Let's pop that on the desktop. So now I've created I've put some samples on. I've made a sample set. And if I was to clear that and I wanted to load them back on my animal collection, I could simply drag that folder and it puts them all back in. I can also load using the load dialog there. So I hover over that, you should see load a set of samples. And then I can click and select in the traditional way, locating files that I want. So where should I go? If we go to desktop, then we want animal collection. There we go. So that's just loading using pre-recorded samples available to us. Now the next thing, let's clear those, we want to look at is recording sounds into the Skoog. Now if you're using pre-recorded samples, you can use WAV files, and it should accept MP3 files as well. But if you have any troubles with that, then it's better to WAV seems to be the most stable, but it should accept MP3s, which is a useful feature. Now to record into your Skoog software, you obviously have to need some kind of vehicle for doing that, either in terms of a microphone, either built into your laptop or plugged into the microphone input of your PC or Mac, or if you're using an external sound card, then you would need some way of inputting a source into that. So let's have a quick look at how we do that. So always worth checking your audio settings. So if I go up here to the top menu, we've got Skoogmusic settings, scores, window, help, all that kind of thing. And if I click the settings, there's only one option, audio. I'm just pause for a second to have a sip of this cup of coffee, if you just don't mind. Lovely. Right. So I've got my audio settings, and here for me, I'm using a SoundCloud driver, so that means that you guys can hear it and it's all routing through. That's fine. But my input device here is built-in microphone. I've got the microphone on my eyesight, Soundflower, and various other options. So I've selected built-in microphone, input source, internal microphone, blah blah blah. Now these will be different depending on what machine you're on, and if the recording's not working, it's not very exact advice, but I would just try some different options on that list. They should be fairly obvious and make sense in terms of saying built-in microphone or built-in line input and those kind of things. But if you're not getting sound in, try some different options on the drop-down list on the input driver and input source until you start getting somewhere. So let's get rid of that. So how do we record in? Well, we use this record button that's located beside each of the buffers. So if I click record and let's say hello, and then it's very important that you see I clicked start. Let's do this again. Click, it starts flashing, whether you can see that, and now it's recording. Hello, and now I need to click it again to stop the recording. Now that's really quite important, because if you don't stop recording, it'll just sit there churning away, fill up your drive, slow down your machine, and could cause a crash. So now click to record, and then click again to stop when you've recorded the sound you want. And so now if I press the red one here, it starts flashing. You can hear my dulcet tones, and now it's recording. Hello. There we go. So I actually just want this hello again to stop. So using my mouse, if I drag over the sound that I want, now I'm going to use the zoom function here just so I can edit it better. So I'm going to drag over that portion. That's the portion I want to look at. Click the magnifying plus. I can see that now. I want to get it so I don't have a gap at the beginning. And I can test it here by hello, hello, hello. There we go. And then if I trim to current selection, there we have my hello. Beautiful trim and selection there. This button reverses the sample. Ooh, there you go. That's what hello sounds like backwards. Didn't know that. So there's my sound recorded in. And like I say, if you're not able to record, or if you're clicking record and clicking stop and that remains blank, it's always worth checking that the audio settings are all set right. Try a few different combinations if you're not getting anything through, and also make sure that your Java and QuickTime are fully up to date to make sure you're getting the most out of the software, and also make sure you've got an up-to-date copy of the Skoogmusic software. That's another important thing. So that's recording in. Now you can record a different sound into each of the buffers. So now we should have record a different sound into buffers. There we go. So it's very simple, and the quality will depend on the quality of the mic that you have set up. Majority of up-to-date laptops now have a built-in microphone that's designed for Skyping and chatting online, and they have a pretty good quality really in terms of voice. And often, I mean, a lot of the application of this is using voice in terms of recording sounds in, although we'll talk about some alternate applications a bit later in that case study in relation to autism and engaging young people who are hard to reach. So that's recording in, nice and simple. Click the button, make the sound, allow it to record in. The other thing that you can do, and again, once you've got these recorded in and edited how you want, you can then save them as a patch, as a sample set. So now if I go here, this will clear all the samples, which I want to do just now. So that's the kind of nuts and bolts of getting the sounds in. So now I want to talk about how you can play with them in different ways. Okay, so let's just use a simple sound. Let's a simple vocalization, say, such as ah. There we go. Now I'm gonna. So now if I press red here, ah. You can see there's a little bit of a delay because of the gap that I've left at the beginning. So if I just use my mouse, drag and select the portion of the wave I want, I just want the clean that bit there, edit, and now it's starting as soon as I touch it. Now I'm going to copy that. So in the red buffer, you have the option to copy that single recording into all of the buffers, and that is very useful if you're wanting to use one sound and use that to create a sort of palette of sounds to be more creative and musical with. So take a single vocalization, say, and then set that up to be able to, for an individual to be able to sing or to play and be part of a wider musical experience. So let's have a look at how we do that. So click copy to all, and that gives me a sample played on each one. I've got my Skoog in poly mode at the moment, which means I can play more than at the same time. And you can also see when you do trigger the sound using the trigger function at the top, and the yellow one in the middle there, you can see there hopefully the cursor, the play line moving through the sound, which shows you where you are in the sound and what part of the sound relates to the sound that you're hearing, which is useful when it comes to editing it and trying to choose different portions of a recording. So we have our sounds, sampling's on, and now I want to talk about these three buttons here. So the first one, if we hover over, sampling mode, tap, press and squeeze. So the first one is tap, so that means that it's just triggering the sound. So if I tap, it plays. There we go. It doesn't matter if I hold it, it doesn't change it in any way, it's just triggering the sound. This one is press and hold, so there's that switch function of press and hold. So if I just touch it for a little bit, you can see it only plays. It plays for as long as I'm holding it down. stops after it's finished. If I had a long sound in there, and that press and hold can be useful, say, particularly say in physiotherapy context, so if you load a short song, so like a recording of a song that the student enjoys listening to, then you can make it so they have to hold or have contact with one of the sides of the Skoog, and maintain contact to be able to listen to that song as a motivator. And then, of course, you could adjust the sensitivity levels to either make it easier for the student, or then to actually challenge them a bit further and make it harder for them to achieve the same result. And then using the advanced setting page, you can take a read of what that sensitivity level is, and combat that with duration, and you'll be able to get a good measure of how they're functioning, how they're doing. So that's a useful little tip. So now that's press and hold. Also quite good for beats, in terms of being able to play beats in and do little starting breaks, and then allow the section to run. You can use it in different ways. It's worth experimenting with. It's a bit more, I suppose, expressive than simple triggering, but it's not as expressive as squeezing. So if I now select squeezing on my menu up here, so now you saw then you have to wait for the buffers to refresh. You see that little line going across where it's kind of loading the stuff in. So now if I go on the orange here, you can see as I'm pressing, you should see the playhead moving through the sound, and as I press harder, it moves to different parts in the left to right direction. But it keeps resonating, it keeps the sound resonating at different points. And this means that I can actually start to sing with the sounds. And start to create a resonance with that. Now that really comes into its own when you start making use of some of the other features on this function, which is the pitching functions. So I have my sound, a simple sound. So let's imagine that's a single vocalization by a student, and then so we're taking their sound, their voice, and just a short break from Skoog here to talk about the human. And the human voice is so important psychologically. It's an incredibly motivating thing, and it's something that when we have control of it, we take for granted. And if we don't have control of it, to give an individual control again of their sound in a way that they can control and that they can be creative with and communicative with is really important, and something that's quite unique to this platform in terms of what you can do with that. And it's really worth trying out. So we have this simple vocalization, a simple sound. Okay. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I want to change the pitch of the sound so I have a different sounding version of my voice on each side. Now I can do that manually using these little buttons here. The sharp button makes it go higher. So I'm actually going to work on the yellow one so that you can see it, what I'm doing. So, and I'm going to go back to just triggering it for a second. Now it goes up in semitones. And one great way to win a class over it is to, not that anyone needs to, but I often find when I'm visiting schools and doing sessions and I'm new to people, a nice way to break the ice is to put my voice in and say, would you like to, play with my voice? And often it says yes, or I record my voice in, and then we make, pitch me up to make me sound like Alvin or something like that. And it's nice to be able to play around with sounds in that way. So we can move the pitch up or down. So we can take, say, if there's a teacher there, and, Mrs. Peters perhaps, we can make Mrs. Peters sound like a lower-voiced individual, which is often quite funny as well. So there's nice things you can do with that. So pitching you can do that way. So you can do it manually for each sound. However, what is really useful is this follow keyboard button here. So it makes 5 sides correspond to the current keyboard note spacing. So if I click that, then these notes change, these pitches change in terms of the pitch shifting. And if I go to the note selection, I've currently got some notes that I was using to play along with Zorba the Greek. I'm going to go minor pentatonic. So now I should have a minor pentatonic spacing. Now that says F minor, Okay, it's not going to be exactly what the tonic dialed in says, because how it pitches the sounds, how it changes the note of the sound, as it were, relative to itself, is relative to the sound that gets recorded in. So if you sing in a perfect middle C, then using those tonic selection menu, you can actually exactly get A, exactly get B, B flat, and these kind of things. But if you're just making a sound, then you have to do it relatively. And actually, what you can make use of is this transpose slider. So it'll still be a minor spacing, but you can use this to tune the voice, and you can also use the fine tuning across semitones. So using the combination of the scale selection and the transpose selection and the tuning, you can actually tune 2 exact notes, is what I'm trying to say. And that would allow you then to use this to enable someone to use their voice in a creative context with a piece of music, say. So taking someone who perhaps can't speak or can't sing, doesn't have necessarily control of their voice to do that, to then be able to use their voice, their sound, as something that they identify with in a creative and expressive way, which is quite unique, and I think a really powerful function. So that's something there. And actually going back to squeezing now in this mode, so we have this pentatonic spacing here. I'm just going to bring that down because it's a bit high, so let's drop that to quite like that. So I'll brought that down a bit. Go back to my sampling. So now play around with that, and by using the squeeze function I can be more expressive. If you can hear there, I can shape the sound, and it's responding to the actions that I'm making, and that contingency between action upon the Skoog and then the effects in the sound is again another real strength and function. So I'm just going to check my Hangout page here just to see if any questions have come up. If they're not, yes, I've got 2 viewers now. There we go. And let's just send that back now to the dock. So that's the sort of basic features of using the sampler height. So it's recording stuff in, dragging stuff in, saving it. A quick note on saving. When it does save, let's have a look at, let's save this set of sounds actually. Let's do it from scratch. So if where's my mouse gone? Hello? Seem to have lost it. There it is. Right. Sorry about that. So now if I take my mouse and I click on save there, on the save this sample set. There we go, and let's call it voice. There we go, click that. Now what it does is it saves a folder, and in that folder there are 5 WAV files, one that says blue, one that says green, one that says orange, one that says red, one that says yellow. Okay, so I can't drag sounds between the colors on the screen here, but if I wanted to, I could drag red to yellow there, and these are all the same sound, so that's just not very illustrative. But you can get the idea. So if you want to switch them around, save them, then go into the folder, and then you can drag them back in and switch them around, and then save them back again. But the program needs to know, which color it's supposed to be putting a sound in a sample set to, and it does that by the file name. We will come back to that again. Well, actually, now let's. No, I'll show you that in a second. So one thing that I was asked recently, but last couple of weeks before this session was. I'm going to clear the samples. I had a physiotherapist actually working in West Lothian, and they wanted just to take some of the sounds of the Skoog in the instruments and to get them onto the different sides. So very quickly, a real way of doing that is to go here, let's go flute. Okay, so now if I use the main record up here, there we go, that gives me this. Select the sound, there we go, click save. Save to disk, call that flute, put it on the desktop, save, there it is, and then if I then go to my sampling, I drag flute to the blue, then I should have, oh, it's pitched up, let's take that off. Blue. So then very quickly I could go to each of the different instruments, record a sound, and then just drag it into the sampler. And that's it. That was a quick way of getting. They wanted just to have some different textures really in terms of sound. So have a string, woodwind, brass, and a bit of percussion. And they were working on some sensory integration work. So that's a way of doing that, which is a nice little useful tip. Again, let's clear these. So other ways that you could use this is obviously with language, spoken language, and you could use it. Let's talk a little bit about how speech and language therapists have been using it, and some have been using it to look at giving students additional sensory feedback when working on vowels or consonants, or particularly say vowel-consonant boundaries in words. So I'm going to do an example here of a vowel-consonant boundary. So let's record in steal. Go, click stop. Let's have a look at what we got in. Steal. I want that word, steal. So if I highlight this using my mouse, edit, steal. Now I'm going to just copy to all just to illustrate this. So I'm going to work on the yellow button here so you can see. Or maybe orange would be better. Steal. Yes, orange would be better. Steal. To see. And I go to squeeze. Now, steal, steal. So you can hear I can move through the word, and I can ideally vocalize at the same time, practice, and go steal, steal. Okay, so that's a nice way of doing that as well, and it works in different ways, different sounds. So that's one thing you can do. The other thing we could do here is we could use it for sequencing tasks or language and comprehension. We could let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got some numbers, and I'm not going to edit those, but I would do normally. And so now you say, well, we need to put these in the right order. I'm going to use triggering instead of squeezing. 4, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So I have a sequencing task, and then we can say, right, let's get them in the right order, and then let's, using, say, the flashcards that are downloaded from the website, let's order those in the right order, so you're creating, again, a nice little sensory task. You could use it in terms of comprehension. We could take, let's clear this, again, using this copy to all function. That's another thing to do. I would like to be here, but I'm not sure if I can. This is just, sorry, I'm speaking off the top of my head. There's a sentence here. So let's trim that to the whole sentence there. So we've got, I would like to be here, but I'm not sure if I can. So if I copy to all, then I can select a different portion of that sentence on each side, and then seek to put it back together. So if I can, but I'm not sure. I would like to be here, but I'm not sure if I can. So again, I can do it different ways. I can take phonemes and I can build them back into words. There's all kinds of ways that we can use this, and do let us know and share with us how you're using this kind of function. It's always good to share practice and best practice and ideas, and most of these ideas for ways of using it have come from teachers and not from us. Which is really great. So that's again another example how you can do it. So hopefully you can see from that lots of different curricular activities you can use it. Simple things, again, like there's a buzzer pack you can download. I don't know if I've got that here. Samples. I haven't downloaded the buzzers. But you can get buzzer packs, so you could use it as a buzzer for quizzes in class, and different things like that, and have, and actually, set up between two teams, and one team could be green, blue, and they could have a different person. You could do that thing with holding hands, and you squeeze it and they press, and you can use the buzzer sounds. Just it's a different way of using it, and to bring some ICT into other elements of the class, and it's always good fun to have some nice interesting buzzer sounds. And also using this, again, what I've done before as well is allow groups to make their own buzzer sounds, and they can be any sound that they can think of, and that's another fun. So it's personal to them, and they can personalize it in that way. And again, that's a good fun. Now, as we're moving on with this webinar, Let me just check the page again to see that there are no questions. No questions as yet. And in fact, I'm not sure whether this is functioning in the right way, the Google Hangout at the moment. You'll be seeing the inverse with the camera. But what I want to say is I don't seem to be able to see. Oh, I was watching myself. That's bizarre. Right. Oh, and now it's gone even stranger. I can now hear myself hearing myself. So what if I can I? There we go. I think that should do it. There. So we've been through some various functions. So you can record in, you can drag sounds in that are pre-existing. Now we are getting a dreadful loop now. I wonder what we can do about that. I don't think you're getting it. I think it's just me. I'm hoping it's just me, because it'd be terrible if you had to sit through that. So we've been through how to record, a quick look at the audio settings in terms of setting up your software to make sure you're getting the signals in. A look at some different ways of using it, so either using it with individual single vocalizations for expressive work, communication. You can use it with phonemes, with sections of sentences, with other stimulating material, or reward material in reference to making physiotherapy or occupational therapy activities slightly more engaging, or as a reward for doing certain things. You know, you can implement twisting and squeezing and doing all kinds of stuff that way. So we've looked at pitching the samples as well. We've looked at using the manual pitching, which is these buttons at the end of each side. Also looked at using the keyboard selection there, and that's all of the functions of the sampler there. We had a quick look at how, you know, a lot of people ask, now, how can I get the Skoog sound? So I have a violin here and a flute here, and again, we just did that by selecting the instrument, recording it. There we go. I've got some terrible feedback on this at the moment. Hopefully you're not being subjected to that. Saving it and then dragging it back in. So what I want to talk about now is less on the apply side, and I'm just going to switch off my screen sharing so I can speak to you, and I'm hoping that that will... Has that fixed? No, it hasn't. It hasn't fixed the looping problem. Let me just go in here. Let's have a look at how these audio settings are set quickly. So they appear to have changed. Hello? 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 Well, I think that's probably right. So I'm going to keep going. So now what I want to talk to you about is this particular case study using Skoog by and using environmental sounds or sounds of special interest in order to engage young people and some people who may be particularly hard to reach. This comes from a study by Lewis Forbes, and is a really practical technique that we found has worked, and lots of people have used this now. So what I'm talking about is using samples, using recorded sounds from the environment, sounds that are pertinent to a particular individual, to engage them in an activity, maybe initially just to engage them with you as a practitioner or therapist, or to try and invite them into a group activity where they're working with other students. So the example was Centre, and Lewis, who's a Skoog associate musician, also a great musician, he was working with a group, and he had one individual who, a young man who he couldn't get to engage, and the young man was really focused on the door handles. He walked between one door and another door, and he was playing with the handles. It was one of these kind of, you know, flicking handles like this. And what Lewis noticed was, and I would very much agree with this, is that, you know, it's not just a repeated behavior, but he was really, if you listen to the nuance of the sounds that he was making when he was flicking the handle, he was really creating, he was playing with the sound. So he was flicking the handle to make that kind of click-clack sound, and that's what, and he was doing it in different ways. And sometimes you actually see young people now doing this using YouTube, where they scrub back around a particular part, background a particular part. And what seems to be happening is they're creating a sensory environment that they're in control of, and that they can manipulate to, you know, and create one that they feel safe in, and they're in control of the stimulus and in control of the sounds that are going on. So we can use that with Skoog to actually take that sound palette, and it's a particular palette of sound that's engaging for the individual, and use that to make the Skoog engaging for them, you know, as a way of accessing that sound and that soundscape. And then using the pitching, you can bring them into a communicative example. So I'm going to do that quickly on my Skoog. I'll just record a mechanical sound on. So let's clear the sample buffers here, and I'm going to record. Let's do something like that. I've got some claps here. Well, maybe let's try something metallic. I've got a couple of bits of metal here. Let's try this. Like that. Okay, so we've got some. Oops, drop that on the floor. Some interesting sounds. So let's highlight a section of that. So what Lewis did was, having noted this behaviour where the individual was that's quite interesting. Okay, so having noticed this behaviour where he was playing with his door handles, and so before the next session, what Lewis did was he recorded the sound of those handles. He recorded them onto a Skoog, like I've just done with mine here, and he didn't pitch them initially. He just placed the sound on all of the, and then with the young man, he showed him when he entered the room that he could make this sound by taking Skoog and make that sound with it, and that engaged him. And you could, immediately he was, because initially he hadn't really been, he touched it a couple times, but Lewis had trouble getting him to really engage physically with it. And now that it had a sound that was resonating with him, he was very much more drawn to it, engaged with it, and began using it. And for that session, they simply played with the sound. And Lewis had actually recorded a few different versions, closing it, some other sounds related to the handle, opening, closing, doing it in different ways, reversing it, and allowed him just to really familiarize himself and play with that sound, play with that palette of sound. And then the next session, he pitched it. So using so that's there. So using the pitching function on the sampling, let me go back to my Skoog software. Here it is. Now I'm just going to, let's get rid of that photo booth. So now, hopefully you can hear that. Avant-garde percussion. That's cool, actually. Anyway, actually I've quite a lot of fun with that. So he then pitched it, and then that enabled Lewis to draw him into a musical interaction, expressive and creative interaction, that then took things further. So he had gone from being very focused in his own world to then working with the Skoog device that's bringing him further out himself, and using something that's gives a triangulation point between him and other individuals. And the other great thing with Skoog to remember as well is it's something that students can use, but you can use with them as well. So it's an object that two or more people can use at the same time if positioned correctly. I've got mine on a trusty Skoog mount here, which so that you can see it, and is a nice angle for me. And that drew so placing the sounds on the Skoog device, allowing him to manipulate and play with it in a context he wanted to, and then by pitching it, he managed to start creating musical interaction with it, and then he was able to move him into, once he was then familiar with the Skoog, and he was comfortable using it to control sound by initially using sound that he was comfortable with. Lewis was able then to start introducing more musical sounds and using the Skoog instruments, and that was a real point of a real aha moment in the session. That was a real achievement, really, to really work through that process with the student and engage him. And I think it's a really good example of an innovative use of something like Skoog to broaden the palette and to really think, well, how can we engage these young people and give them an opportunity to express themselves, play, and be creative, and all of those things. So, as always, thanks to Lewis for that example. You can actually read more about it if you look at the case studies on our website. Again, accessible from the footer, and have a look at the case studies there. I can send a link. Actually, let's have a quick look just now which one it is. I'm just looking on my thing here. Oh, something's happened on my screen. I'm opening a Q&A app. Oh, you're broadcasting. Oh, there's a question. Oh, sorry. Margaret McGee. I'm trying to see the question. You are broadcasting, whereas you do not pop on my Google+. Oh, yes, you're broad. Oh, that's a shame. I'm very sorry that I didn't pop up in the others, but hopefully you're being able to watch the broadcast, and it unfortunately hasn't been as interactive then as I would have liked. I don't suppose we still have some time. If you have any questions, Margaret, and if there's anything that you feel I haven't covered, perhaps you could add that now, and it should pop up in my window there. So I'm going to finish answering that question. But hopefully, if you do have any questions, anyone who's watching, please do make use of the Q&A app there that was there. And if you have any questions specifically that I can answer, I'd be happy to do that now in the last 15 minutes. I suppose, yes, I was just looking at where the case studies are on the website. Let me just run that. I'm just going to open my browser. I need to get a different window. Oh, look, I'm already on Skoogmusic. There. Oh, I don't want to mess with that. That's my Google Plus page. Resources. Go here. So I'm just looking at my Skoog page, and I'm going to go down to the bottom footer and have a look under where it says there's Shop Online, Resources, Support, and one that says Skoogmusic. And under that is a link that says Case Studies. I select that link, and I believe it is Isabel Rhine. I think it's this, Case 2 Isabel Rhine Centre. So if you look, it's on the second one down. Just checking which one it is. Yes, so Ross. Yeah, so it's that one. So you can read more about it there in the background behind that work, and that was actually part of a larger piece of work at the Isabel Rhine Centre. Oh, we have a. Is this only available for Mac? No, Margaret. It's fully compatible with PC, and both versions are always available to you. We support Windows 7, Windows 8. We do still support Windows XP Service Pack 3, but we do advise a more up-to-date version of Windows. If you've got any questions about spec of computer or what you need to run it, please don't hesitate to email us at support@skoogmusic.com, and you can also find information in reference to that on our website. Some of the videos are possibly a bit Mac orientated, but the actual look of the software as well that I was showing you all looks exactly the same on the screen. The only difference that there is in the audio setup sometimes, but there's a built-in fix my audio button within the audio settings that takes you through a little tutorial to be able to fix your sound if you're having problems with it. And that should be useful in terms of setting up the recording function and whatnot. So, please do a demo using a pre-recorded music clip like the one you were doing at the beginning of the webinar. So would you like me to so I'm just reading Margaret's question here. Please do a demo using a pre-recorded music clip like the thing you were doing at the beginning of the webinar. So would you like me to play along to a piece of music using the Skoog? Or would you like me to use some pre-recorded pieces of music onto the different sides? I'm not quite clear. What I was doing at the beginning there was playing along to a piece of music. So maybe I'll do that initially. And then I can do the second one afterwards, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate online. I'm going to go to the Skoogmusic website. Again, let's have a look here. Go to Window. And to Skoogmusic. let's go here. I'm just going to answer this other question from Margaret. So, Margaret, the case study that I mentioned was the one I was talking about previously in relation to using pre-recorded sounds. It's case study 2 from the Isabel Rhine Centre on our website in the case study section, and we don't have any recordings of that because of in terms of confidentiality, etc. But what was demonstrated was using the sample function to record some environmental sounds which the young person found particularly engaging, and using them to create a palette of sound on the Skoog that he could then use to interact with others. So I'm going to play along with a song. Yes, play along with the song. Okay, so I'll stop yapping. There we go. So on my Skoog, I'm going to select an instrument. Let's play, select clarinet, say. And now I'm going to choose a tune from the Skoog top tunes. Let's have a look. What shall I play? What shall I play? I'm going to answer that. Yes, play along. So can you give, and I have Laura Sandel, can you give an example of how the Skoog used to acclimate individual to have an version 2 first step? Yes, I'll come to that in a minute, Laura. So I'm going to play along with a quick tune. I'm getting some bizarre delay going on in my Skoog here. I'll do my best. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to play along with a piece of music. Let's have a look at a bit of Neil Diamond. Oh no, let's do Blue Jeans. So let's click the YouTube link. There we go. And then it's telling me that I need to put in A major. So if I go to my Skoog and select A major, major pentatonic A. There we are.
We all have a place that means something to us, somewhere close to our hearts.
So hopefully, it's actually quite difficult for me. I've got something weird happening with my sound where there's a delay, so I can't hear what I'm doing. I hope the sound is better for you listening to the webinar. I could possibly restart it and see what we'll learn here. So what we've got here, we've got a Skoog use for PC2 video on the side. Let's plug into my So from Laura then, yes, well that video that says plug into Mac, we do have other videos as well, and it does stay on the specs side of things. It is both Mac and compatible. But we will do a new video. So I've got a question here from Laura.
Baby, tonight by the fire, all alone tonight. Nothing around but the sound of my heart and your side.
What's happened with the sound? It should obviously be in time, but I'm having all kinds of issues with that. But I'm going to soldier on, and I'm going to answer that. I would, in terms of Mark looking at people playing along, I would have a look at our YouTube channel, and particularly some of the examples of Samantha. She plays to a very high level, playing along with tunes that you will recognise. So, for example, Journey's "Don't Stop Believing." In fact, I wonder if I could just, before I finish answering this question from Laura, I wonder if I could just type in for you, Margaret, Skoog Journey Samantha. There we go, that's the one. I wonder if I could just copy this link in here, and with that, oh no, I can't write in that. Oh well. If you have a look at our YouTube channel and you search for Samantha Journey, Don't Stop Believing, then you will be able to watch Samantha playing along with that popular classic. So now I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about this question about acclimating individuals on terms of different sounds. Well, it's a good question, also in terms of whether acclimating them is if that's what you want to do, there are debates on whether that's something that you would want to pursue or not. But if that's a route that you're pursuing, then the first thing that you can obviously do is by recording the sounds on. You can make it so that they're very quiet by adjusting the volume of Skoog, so you can make it so they're less threatening that way. You could also use them in a particular sample set. You might take the footsteps, but have a palette of sounds that are non-threatening or not overstimulating for the child in terms of, say, birdsong, and then add the footsteps as an element of that, so that it's bedded in with some other sounds in which they find less threatening. You could take the sound, say like a door shutting or footsteps, for example, or the ambulance, and you could pitch it up to make it, well, if it's a threatening sound, if it's something that's, I mean, one thing that's built into everyone is that sounds that are loud and low mean run away. They mean get out of the way. I mean, it's a technique used in cinema and all kinds of things. So if you take a sound and you pitch it up, not too high, because some people are very sensitive to high frequencies, but if you pitch it up, then it can make it less threatening, as it were, and then you could work slowly bring that down in pitch. Using the pitch shifting buttons could be a way of doing it. We've talked about adjusting the volume. I would think, and now I haven't tried this, would be that say taking the dog barking and then applying a pitch setting such as, say, the notes for Old MacDonald, or a particular tune that the individual may know, and allowing to be creative and sort of play a tune with the sounds may well also help in terms of making that sound more engaging. The other thing that I would think would be useful in that sense, and this depends on the sound, would be to use the squeezing function to manipulate the sounds, to play around with them. In some ways, it's manipulating the sounds so that you're not making fun of the sounds, but you're bending them to your will, as it were. Now, the squeeze function, that recording and manipulating using squeezing, works better with shorter duration sounds. So a dog bark, or a couple of footsteps, or things like that. And so when you're doing the squeezing, it can actually make the sound really different. And what might be quite nice to do is to play with them in that setting, and then once the students finish playing with that and engaging with that and having fun, to change the setting back to triggering, tapping, and showing them that the sound that they were using was the actual, say, just the bark. But if you're playing with it in the squeeze setting, it will be a kind of rah kind of sound where you're able to play with it and manipulate it. And I would, because it's such an adaptable platform with the sampling, I would suggest trying some different things, try some different ways of playing out, either, as I suggested, having a safe set of sounds in which you include one of the other sounds in as part of that, in terms of part of the palette. You can use it by pitch. You can change the perception of it by pitching it either up or down, although I would suggest moving up initially to make the sound possibly less threatening, to move past that kind of hardwired response to low frequency, high volume sounds. And again, making sure that although high quality sound reproduction, a good speaker is always really important, making sure that you control that volume level so it's neither too much or too little for the individual. And then the other would be playing around with squeezing those sounds and making them sound different, and then demonstrating to the student that afterwards that the sounds that they've been playing and enjoying are those sounds, and possibly switching between those different modes. So you're giving them a feel of either playing the sound and then squeezing it, bending it to their will, and doing things more creatively with it. Or in terms of the sound, I mean, you can really get a really good squeeze on where you get to kind of crush the sound, as it were, which can be quite satisfying, really, for a lot of people. So I hope that goes in some way to answering that. Again, it's not actually something that I have done personally with a client, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head in terms of how I would use it in that context. But if anyone else has any suggestions on that, please do post up on our forum or submit some questions to our blog or our Facebook page. And we are coming to the end of our webinar. I hope you found it informative. We've got another webinar tomorrow, which is a more general tutorial and that is on getting to grips with Skoog. So we'll go through all of the key functions of Skoog, how to use it, and what it all does. A big thank you to Maggie this week, who's been doing the Carnival of the Animals, and that'll be hopefully made available tomorrow. And then mention on that, do check out the resources on the Skoog website. There's over 100 songs in the pop tunes section and top tunes. We've got classical tunes. We've got what else we've got? We've got nursery rhymes, kids songs, all kinds of different material there available to you. We've got lesson plans, we've got backing tracks, we've got some new backing tracks, the Loops Pack 2, which we need to make a bit more of. We've got song packs like the Neil Diamond song pack, we've got transcription packs, we've got all sorts, and it's free to you as Skoog users. There's a resource to just make use of. And if you have suggestions for things you would like to see in our resources, please do email us. So that's just a quick note from Margaret McGee. Thanks, that's great. No, thank you for getting in touch. If you haven't got a Skoog, please do email us and see where you can get them in your area. And I hope to see you all again soon. So thank you for joining me, and I hope it was technically okay in terms of sound quality and vision and stuff. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. All right then, take care. Bye bye now.